Hey, good evening, guys. It is 8:30 p.m. New York time on um, Wednesday, April 17th, 2019. Hope you're doing well. Just want to make a quick video, guys, regarding some news that's coming out in about, what time is it coming out? I think in about an hour and 15 minutes or so. We have 9:30 p.m. New York time, so just over an hour from now. We have an Australian employment change and employment rate news. Um, Excuse me, not rate. Yeah, the unemployment rate and employment numbers coming out in just over an hour. So they are expecting an improvement here of a little over 15,000 jobs versus 4.6 thousand, 4,600 the last time. And they're expecting their unemployment rate to actually tick up just slightly from 4.9 to 5%. And so that's the expectation going into the report. Now, taking a look at kind of what to expect. So this is on Forex, so my Forex source terminal, and it's pretty much what it's saying here, guys. If you look at the charts, the Australian dollar has been really very strong recently as a result of better trade with China. Um, and basically, their economic data as a whole has seen a significant improvement. But it's also important to remember that the RBA, the Royal Bank of Australia, at least to this point, has not changed their dovish tone. So the last time that they met and put out minutes, um, they were quite dovish, and we haven't seen that change. And so, of course, we won't officially see that change if it does until the RBA meets again. But this is going to be an important report. Because if it comes out better than expected, then that's going to probably force the RBA to rethink their dovish tone and maybe give the market a little bit more hope that there won't be a rate cut to stimulate the economy. Now, if it misses, and especially if it's a significant miss, which I think it would need to be in order for it to be tradable to the short side, then that's going to just basically bring the market back down to earth, and traders are going to start remembering what the RBA said at their last meeting. So it's going to be important, I think, if it beats expectations, especially a decent amount on both the job numbers and the employment rate, then we'll see the Aussie continue to probably rally, and I'd probably look to buy any dips, and probably in anticipation of the RBA lowering their dovish tone and maybe raising the hawkish tone. I would expect to see the Aussie kind of supported heading into their next meeting. Again, on the flip side, if it's negative, and I think it would have to be pretty decent negative, then that's probably going to, at least in the short term, erase the positive sentiment and send the Aussie lower. So I don't anticipate I'll be trading into this news. I'll wait and see what the numbers actually come out, and I'll have to really look at them. The full time versus part time. That's always the important thing, in addition to the headline numbers. And so I didn't look to see if Forex Live had anything on here. But I really suggest, guys, if you haven't already, go to forexlive.com and read a little bit of this information regarding the preview of the Australian labor report. I'm going to do that afterwards when we're done here to give me a little bit more flavor of what the analysts are thinking. But again, I think headline is if it really beats expectation, expect to see the Aussie continue to rally, and I'd be pretty confident in the longs. If it misses expectations, I think it's going to have to be a pretty decent miss in order to send the Aussie down, because it's really a lot of good feelings with it now, and I think it really have to take a decent miss on those numbers to send the Aussie lower. But we'll see what it looks like. Like I said, we'll be seeing that in just over an hour. Take a quick look at some charts. This is the Euro Aussie this is the daily chart. Again, I don't really see a real distinctive pattern here. you could say that this is a 1, 2, 3, and then maybe we go up temporarily and then keep going down. So we could see that because again, guys, this is the Asian session, so we could see perhaps a sell-off in the Aussie a little bit, maybe the news a little bit negative, and it goes up, and then you look at into the London session tomorrow and you see it strengthening, and the Euro Aussie continues down. So I wouldn't be at all surprised if we see that. Um, and so this is the Aussie Swiss. And again, I don't really see any signs of this stopping. Where the market's kind of taking a breather here. This is the 6-hour chart ahead of the news. The market's just kind of been trading pretty much sideways all day today for the last, basically the last 4 candles. This would be 24 hours. You can see the market really hasn't done anything. And here's the Aussie dollar, again, kind of bouncing along this trend line here, which I never like trading these kind of things, but of course, if it's negative, I'd want to see it take out this low here before I can think about going short. But if it did do that, it would probably be a pretty good trade to the downside. Aussie Canadian, again, this is the daily chart. We had this breakout over this trend line, and we had this nice little 1, 2, 3, ABC correction to the downside. And now we're just kind of, again, consolidating. But again, I could easily see this going back up again. Aussie yen, as I mentioned in a previous video, we did finally break out of this sideways on the daily chart we've been in for a while. And so, but again, all these pretty much look the same, that we're just kind of been consolidating sideways to maybe down today. And here's the Aussie Kiwi, which has been really strong as of late. Here's the daily chart. I mean, this thing, once it broke out of here, it just hasn't looked back. And we had that negative Kiwi dollar CPI news last night. That's what this big candle was when that news came out on the Kiwi, pretty negative. It shot up and then it pulled back, and then again, ever since that initial spike, we've just kind of been moving sideways ever since. And so that's where we're at. So, again, I could see this maybe going down a little bit more and then turning back up. So that's why, guys, I'm not going to trade into this news. I'm going to wait and see what comes out. I can see this going in, really basically one of 3 directions. I think if we have strong news to the upside, that we will continue up, and I'd be pretty confident in taking long positions. If we get a significant downside print, then I would expect to see the Aussie be pressured. However, if the print either comes out mixed, like it's not bad, it's not good, it's either flat, maybe, the employment number is good, but the unemployment rate is a little down, or vice versa, or if it just comes out negative, but not really negative, like I said, just maybe slightly negative for the Aussie, I can see it maybe going down for maybe the rest of the Asian session, and then turning back up during the session. So unless it's really definitive one way or another, I'm not going to look to. I mean, if it's negative, unless it's really negative, I'd be very hesitant to take an Aussie short. I basically just let it play out, or I take a very short-term scalp position, maybe just for an hour or two tonight, and take a few pips, and then get out, and then wait and see what happens during the London session tomorrow. So that's kind of the way I see it, guys. I think there's room here for multiple actions, but again, with the Aussie being so strong as of late, it's going to take something pretty negative to send it back down the other way. Otherwise, I'd be looking for a short-term sell-off and then a buying opportunity on the Aussie if we either get a slightly negative number, and obviously if we get a positive number, we'll look to guys, keep this one short and sweet. Quick look ahead for the rest of the week. Now we do have Euro flash PMI numbers tomorrow morning for France and Germany, and also just headline for the Euro. Now, usually, honestly, guys, these don't usually do very much. I kind of generally ignore these, but the Euro is kind of at a crossroads right now. We've seen it try to strengthen a little bit, but look, the the ECB, the European Central Bank, is still basically holding on to their dovish tone after their meeting last week. And so I think these PMI numbers are going to be important this time around to help the market decide, is the ECB to be believed in terms of its negative tilt, or is there maybe too much overselling? Is the euro oversold, and we'll see it rally? So like I said, I don't generally watch these flash PMI numbers, but I will be paying attention to these when they come out during the very beginning of the London session tomorrow. And then we have Canadian retail sales coming out just at the beginning of the New York session. And the Canadian today had some decent CPI numbers. And so we have retail sales tomorrow, and it'll be interesting to see what happens with the Canadian. So on the back of what happened today, basically, even though the numbers were positive, the Canadian spiked up and then really has been down ever since then. So this is when the news came out. This candidate, I see this big wick. The market initially rallied, and then it came right back and is essentially basically unchanged from where it started the day today before that news came out. And you can see I have this 5-wave pattern drawn on the charts. I wouldn't be surprised if we continue to see the Canadian come under pressure. And that was the Canadian yen. Here's the Canadian Swiss. And again, this is where the news came out earlier. Let's see. I think it was this candle right here, and we've just been kind of drifting lower ever since. Not as strong as the Canadian yen, because the yen was pretty strong, so that was pushing the Canadian yen down even further. But let's see what happens. I think the market's just going to continue to move probably a little bit sideways and wait for this retail sales number to come out before it really gets any definite footing for tomorrow morning. But if these numbers disappoint, I'd expect the Canadian to really finally begin to push down off those highs. So, and then we also have core retail sales and retail sales for the U.S. dollar. They have these as red. These aren't always as impactful for the dollar because unless there's a really big deviation, although they are expecting a pretty big change. It was negative last month, minus 0.4%. They're expecting positive 0.7%, and they're also expecting the month over month, the headline one, to also be 0.9 positive versus negative 0.2 last time. So, this is a pretty big deviation between these two numbers. So if we get something that either hits this number or is even better, then definitely expect the dollar to rally. Vice versa, if we get something that's a little more flat, somewhere between, say, negative 0.4 and positive 0.7, and between negative 0.2 and 0.9, something in between, then I wouldn't think that these will have a lot of effect. The dollar might go down a little bit, but if we get, again, a really good beat, get these kind of numbers or better, or we really disappoint, maybe we come out negative again, then I think that would be really bad. But outside of that, I'll be looking at it, but they aren't, they aren't numbers that I typically worry too much. I think retail sales for the Canadian is probably a little bit more important. Their economy is not as big as ours, and so it tends to be a bigger number for them. But again, these are pretty big deviations from last month, so it is worth watching to see if these expectations are met or not. And if they're not, then expect pressure for the dollar. But if they are, they need to come in, pretty much around what they were expecting. Anything in between that is probably not going to have a lot of. All right. So, anyways, guys, so that's it. Hope you have a great night. Maybe we'll do a follow up on the Aussie afterwards, perhaps, once the news comes out in just under an hour now. And happy trading. Practice good risk management. Make your own trading decisions. Don't go by anything I'm saying. This is just for information only. And but make sure you like the video, comment, share it. I appreciate your help on the channel, guys. All right. Have a great night, and I will talk to you all very soon.